I sat in the lawyer's office, hands folded in my lap, watching my 3 children lean forward in their chairs. Amanda, my oldest, at 38. Craig, 35. Beth, my baby, at 32. 3 weeks had passed since we buried Harold, my husband of 40 years. The lawyer cleared his throat and read aloud. $15 million, split 3 ways. $5 million each. For me, a sealed envelope. That was all. Amanda glanced at Craig. Craig looked at Beth, then they started laughing. Actually laughing. Amanda said it first. "That's all you get after 40 years?" My hands trembled as I tore open the envelope. Inside, a handwritten note and a small brass key. The note was in Harold's careful script. "Leslie, this key opens what you truly deserve. The safe is where we first said I love you. Trust no one. Harold." I drove home alone to our house in Portland, Maine. 40 years we'd lived there. 40 years of memories packed into every room, every corner. I set my purse on the kitchen counter and stared at the key in my palm. Where we first said I love you, my mind raced through possibilities. Our first apartment on Congress Street? The Italian restaurant where he proposed? The bench at the Eastern Promenade where we watched the sunrise? My phone buzzed. "Craig," I answered. "Mom, you need to be out in 60 days. His voice was flat, businesslike. "We're selling the house." "Selling, Craig? I live here. It's part of the estate. We've already contacted a realtor. She's coming Thursday to do the assessment." "You can't just." "We can. It's our inheritance." The lawyer confirmed it. He hung up. I stood there, phone in hand, feeling the walls close in. A text came through from Amanda. "Realtor is Sarah Jenkins from Coastal Properties. She'll need full access to the house. Make sure it's clean." Then Beth's car pulled into the driveway. I watched through the window as she got out, holding a leather folder. She didn't knock. She walked right in. "Mom, I need you to sign these." She spread papers across the kitchen table. "What are they?" "Just formalities. Releasing any claim to Dad's business assets." Gregory Stone, our lawyer, said it's standard. I scanned the documents. They were giving me nothing. Not even a portion of Harold's accounting practice that I'd helped build by hosting clients, managing schedules, keeping the home office running for decades. "I'm not signing." Beth's face hardened. "Don't make this difficult." I said no. She gathered the papers, shoving them back in the folder. "Fine. We'll do this the hard way." She left without another word, tires squealing as she backed out. I locked the door behind her and leaned against it. "Trust no one." Harold's words echoed. "Where we first said I love you." And then it hit me. Not our first apartment. Not the restaurant. Right here, this house. The basement workshop. We'd bought this place in 1983. I was 25. Harold was 28. We were poor then, scraping together the down payment. The house was a mess, needed everything, but it was ours. We'd stood in the basement that first day, surrounded by the previous owner's junk, and Harold had taken my hands and said, "I love you, Leslie. We're going to build a beautiful life here." I went to the basement door and flipped on the light. The wooden steps creaked under my feet. Harold's workshop took up the back half of the space. Tools hung on pegboards. His workbench sat against the far wall, covered in a fine layer of dust. I started moving boxes, old Christmas decorations, baby clothes I'd saved from when the kids were small, tax records from the 90s. Behind everything, against the concrete wall, I found a panel that looked slightly different from the rest. I pressed on it. Nothing. I ran my fingers along the edges and felt a small latch. It clicked. The panel swung open. Behind it, mounted in the wall, was a fireproof safe, black metal, heavy duty. I'd never seen it before. The keyhole was small, brass. I inserted the key from the envelope. It turned smoothly. Inside, I found a thick folder of financial documents. Multiple USB drives labeled with dates going back 8 months. A second letter in Harold's handwriting. Photographs I'd never seen. And a burner phone, the cheap kind you buy at convenience stores. My hands shook as I unfolded the second letter. "Leslie, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I discovered something terrible about our children 6 months ago. The $15 million is a test. I set everything up deliberately to expose their true character. The money comes with hidden conditions they don't know about yet. The USB drives contain evidence of crimes. Wait and watch what they do. Don't trust anyone. Not even Catherine. But especially watch our children. They're not who we thought they were. I'm sorry I left you to deal with this, but you're stronger than you know. The truth will set you free, even if it breaks your heart first. All my love, Harold. I sat on the cold basement floor, letter in hand, trying to process it. Evidence of crimes? What crimes? I grabbed the folder and the USB drives and went upstairs to the study. Harold's computer was still there. I hadn't had the heart to turn it on since he died. I booted up the old laptop and inserted the first USB drive, dated 8 months ago. A folder appeared. Inside were audio files. I clicked the first one. Static, then voices. I recognized them immediately. Amanda, Craig, and Beth. They were in Harold's home office. I remembered that day. I'd been visiting my sister in Boston. Harold had been home alone. Amanda's voice came through clearly. How much longer do you think he's going to live? Craig laughed. Dad's only 68. Could be another 20 years. I can't wait that long, Beth said. My mortgage is killing me. Tim and I are drowning. We all are, Amanda added. If Dad would just hurry up and die, we could finally live our lives. Craig spoke again. He's got at least 10 million. Maybe 15. Split 3 ways, we'd never have to work again. Did you see Mom the other day? Beth said, acting like she's so perfect. She doesn't work, never has, just spends Dad's money. They laughed. All 3 of them. Laughing about their father dying. Wishing for it. I felt sick. This was 8 months ago. Harold had been alive, healthy. And they'd been discussing his death like it was a business opportunity. I played the next file. Same location, different date. 6 months ago. Amanda's voice. I looked into it. If Dad has a sudden heart attack, no one questions it. He's the right age, has some stress, eats too much red meat. What are you saying? Craig asked. I'm saying there are ways to make it happen. Digitalis. It's in heart medication. Too much causes cardiac arrest. Looks natural. Jesus, Amanda. Beth's voice was horrified but intrigued. I'm just saying it's possible, Amanda continued. I'm not saying we should do it. But if someone wanted to. The recording ended. I sat frozen. My children, my babies, discussing murdering their father. I clicked through more files. There were dozens. Conversations about Harold's money, complaints about waiting, discussions about his will. I heard cars outside. Multiple cars. I went to the window and saw all 3 of them pulling up together. Amanda's silver sedan, Craig's black truck, Beth's white SUV. They parked in a line and got out, walking toward the house together. I barely had time to close the laptop and shove the USB drive in my pocket before they were at the door. They didn't knock. Amanda used the key Harold had given her years ago. I heard the lock turn, and then all 3 of them were in my living room. But they weren't alone. A man in an expensive suit followed them in. Tall, maybe 50, with slicked-back gray hair and cold eyes. Mom, this is Gregory Stone, Amanda said. He's our attorney. I know who he is, I said. He read the will. Stone smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Mrs. Leslie, your children have asked me to help facilitate a smooth transition here. Transition to what? He opened his briefcase and pulled out a stack of papers. They've received an excellent offer on this property, $2.8 million. The buyers want to close in 30 days. We need your cooperation to make that happen. This is my home. Actually, Stone said smoothly, it's part of your late husband's estate. Your children, as the primary beneficiaries, have the authority to liquidate assets to satisfy estate taxes and debts. There are no estate taxes that require selling my house. Nevertheless, he slid the papers across the coffee table toward me. We need your signature to expedite the process. I looked at my children. Amanda stood with her arms crossed. Craig stared at the floor. Beth picked at her fingernails. I'm not signing. Mom, don't be difficult, Amanda said. We're trying to handle this professionally. You're trying to throw me out of my home. You can't afford to keep it anyway, Craig said. Property taxes alone are $12,000 a year. You have no income. I have Social Security. $1,800 a month, Beth said. That's nothing. Stone cleared his throat. Mrs. Leslie, I should mention that your children have expressed some concerns about your mental state since your husband's passing. Grief can be very difficult, especially at your age. My mental state is fine. Of course. His smile was patronizing. But I'm told you've been confused lately. Forgetful. Your husband apparently noticed it too. That's a lie. Is it? Beth pulled a piece of paper from her purse. We found this letter Dad wrote to his doctor. He was worried about you, said you'd been showing signs of dementia. She handed it to Stone, who made a show of reading it carefully. I reached for it, but he held it back. This is very concerning, Stone said. Dr. Walsh should have this for your medical records. Let me see it. He handed it over. The letterhead looked real. Harold's handwriting looked right, but I'd never seen this before. He would have told me if he'd been worried. We told each other everything. Or so I'd thought. Dr. Walsh never got this letter, I said. Dad must not have sent it yet, Amanda said. He died before he could. This is fake. Mom, please. Craig's voice had a warning edge. We're trying to help you. If you keep being unreasonable, we'll have to take other steps. What steps? Stone closed his briefcase. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Mrs. Leslie, think about what I've said. You have 48 hours to reconsider signing these documents. After that, we'll need to pursue alternative legal remedies. They left. All 4 of them. I watched from the window as they stood in the driveway talking. Stone gesturing, my children nodding, then they drove away. I grabbed my phone and called Dr. Patricia Walsh. I'd been seeing her for 23 years. She'd delivered Beth. If anyone would know about Harold's concerns, it was her. Patricia Walsh's office, the receptionist answered. This is Leslie. I need to speak with Dr. Walsh. It's urgent. She's with a patient. Can she call you back? Please, tell her it's about Harold. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Leslie, sweetheart, I'm so sorry about Harold. Dr. Walsh's voice was warm, familiar. What's going on? Did Harold write you a letter about me? About dementia concerns? Silence. Then, no. I never received anything like that from Harold. Why? My children showed me a letter. They said Harold wrote to you expressing worry about my memory. That's absolutely false. Harold never mentioned anything like that to me. And if he had concerns, he would have brought you in for an evaluation. Leslie, what's happening? I told her everything. The will, the children's cruelty, the forged letter. This is very serious, Dr. Walsh said. That's fraud. But Leslie, I should tell you something. Amanda called my office 2 weeks ago. Amanda? She asked about symptoms of dementia, wanted to know what signs to look for. I thought she was concerned about you, given Harold's death. But now I'm wondering if she was gathering information for something else. My stomach turned. They're building a case against me. It seems that way. Leslie, you need a lawyer. A good one. After we hung up, I went back to the basement. I pulled out the folder of financial documents Harold had left. Most of it was dense legal language, but certain things became clear as I read. Harold had moved most of our joint assets into a complex trust structure months ago. The house was in the trust, not in probate. That meant I technically still had legal control, despite what Stone had said. But there was something else. Something that made my blood run cold. The $15 million my children had inherited wasn't a gift. It was a loan against future inheritance. If they spent it within 90 days, they'd owe massive penalties and taxes. The document showed calculations. They'd end up owing nearly $12 million in obligations they couldn't possibly pay. Harold knew they'd spend it immediately. He'd set a trap. But there was more. I found a bank statement from a bank I'd never heard of. Global Atlantic Trust, headquartered in the Cayman Islands. Account holder, Harold Samuel Brennan. Balance, $52 million. $52 million. Harold had $52 million hidden offshore that nobody knew about. The will had been a decoy, a test, a trap. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Mrs. Leslie? A woman's voice, professional, slightly urgent. My name is Catherine. I was your husband's business partner. We need to meet immediately. Your children are in terrible danger, and so are you. I met Catherine the next morning at a coffee shop on Commercial Street, downtown Portland. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table away from the windows. She stood when she saw me. Around 50, sharp features, expensive suit, intelligent eyes that assessed me quickly. "Thank you for coming," she said as we sat down. "You said my children are in danger." "They are. But first, I need to know what Harold told you about his business." "He was an accountant. He had a private practice." Catherine's expression told me I was wrong. Harold was much more than that. For the past 15 years, he and I ran a consulting firm. We helped wealthy clients with tax strategy and asset protection. That sounds legal. Most of it was. But some of our clients required services that crossed lines. Harold was the one who handled the offshore accounts. He was brilliant at it. Moved money through shell corporations, trusts, international transfers. Our clients included some very powerful people. Some very dangerous people. My coffee sat untouched, growing cold. "What are you telling me?" 8 months ago, Harold wanted out. He said he couldn't sleep anymore, couldn't look at himself in the mirror. He wanted to shut down the offshore operations and return to simple accounting. What happened? Our clients don't accept resignation. These are men who've hidden tens of millions of dollars through Harold's structures. They need him to maintain access. When Harold died, all the access protocols froze. His death was a heart attack. Catherine leaned forward. Was it? Harold was paranoid in his final weeks. He thought someone was following him. He told me if anything happened to him, it wouldn't be an accident. I have no proof. But I saw him 3 days before he died. He looked terrified. I thought about the audio recordings, my children discussing digitalis, making a heart attack look natural. You think someone killed him? I think it's possible. And here's what you need to understand, Leslie. That $15 million your children inherited, that's not Harold's money. What? It belongs to our clients. Harold borrowed it, knowing your children would take it immediately. I think he was teaching them a lesson. But those clients want their money back. And they're going to come looking. But the kids don't know. They think it's their inheritance. Exactly. They're spending money that belongs to men like Marcus Brennan. The name sent chills through me. Who's Marcus Brennan? Real estate developer on paper. Money launderer in reality. He has $12 million with Harold. When he finds out it's gone, and your children spent it. She didn't finish the sentence. I have to warn them. Do you? After what they've done to you? I stared at her. What do you know about what they've done? Harold told me everything. He knew they were cruel to you. He set up the will to expose them. Part of me thinks he wanted you to let them destroy themselves. She paused. There's something else. The $52 million in the Cayman account? That's not Harold's either. It belongs to the clients. Harold was the custodian. With him dead, they're desperate to access it. They're going to come after you, thinking you have the codes. I don't have any codes. They don't know that. We sat in silence. The coffee shop buzzed with morning activity around us. Normal people living normal lives. I felt like I'd stepped into a nightmare. What should I do? Catherine wrote something on a napkin and slid it across to me. A phone number. This is my cell. Call me if anything happens, day or night. And Leslie, be careful, watch your back. These people don't make threats. They act. I drove home in a daze. When I pulled into my driveway, I noticed immediately that something was wrong. The front door was slightly ajar. I always locked it. Always. I called 911 before going in. 2 police officers arrived within 10 minutes. They searched the house while I waited on the porch. When they came out, Officer Martinez shook his head. Someone definitely searched the place. Your office is torn apart, but nothing obvious is missing. TV's still there. Computer's still there. Jewelry? I need to check. We went inside together. My bedroom looked normal, jewelry box untouched, but Harold's office was destroyed. File cabinets dumped, desk drawers pulled out, papers everywhere. And my laptop, the one I'd used to play the USB recordings, was gone. Probably looking for something specific, Officer Davis said. Any idea what? No. I couldn't tell them about the offshore money or the recordings. Not yet. Not until I understood what was happening. They filed a report, suggested new locks, said they'd patrol the area more frequently. Then they left. I went to the basement. The hidden panel was still concealed. The safe was untouched. Whoever broke in didn't know about it, but they knew about the laptop. That meant they'd been watching. waiting for me to leave. That evening, all 3 of my children showed up together again, with 2 police officers. I opened the door, confused. "What's going on?" "Mrs. Leslie," one of the officers said, "your children have filed for emergency guardianship. I have a court order here requiring you to appear at a hearing in 5 days. Guardianship? I don't need a guardian. Amanda stepped forward. Mom, we're worried about you. You're clearly not well. The break-in today just proves you can't take care of yourself properly. The break-in wasn't my fault. You probably left the door unlocked, Craig said. Dr. Mills said this kind of confusion is common with early-stage dementia. Who's Dr. Mills? I've never seen a Dr. Mills. Beth held up papers. You were evaluated last week. Don't you remember? That's a lie. The officer cleared his throat uncomfortably. Ma'am, the court will sort this out. The hearing is scheduled for next Tuesday at 10 in the morning. You're required to attend. They handed me the papers and left. My children stayed on the porch for a moment. Amanda looked at me with something that might have been pity or might have been triumph. We're trying to help you, Mother. If you'd just cooperate, this would be so much easier. After they left, I read through the papers. They'd submitted evidence. The forged letter from Harold, statements from neighbors saying I seemed confused, medical records from a doctor, Raymond Mills, psychiatrist, claiming he'd evaluated me and found concerning signs of dementia. I'd never met Raymond Mills in my life. I called Catherine. They're trying to get guardianship, I told her. Smart move. If they control you, they control any assets you might have access to. Leslie, you need to fight this. Get a lawyer. I can't afford a lawyer. All my accounts are in Harold's name. Everything's frozen until the estate settles. There are legal aid services. Public defenders. That's not going to be enough against Gregory Stone. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept checking the windows, the doors. Every sound made me jump. Around 2 in the morning, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. We know what your husband took. We want it back. You have 72 hours, or your family pays the price. Attached was a photo. Beth's house. Specifically, her children's playroom window. My grandchildren. Emma, age 6. Noah, age 4. I could see their toys through the glass. They were threatening my grandchildren. I grabbed my phone and called Beth. It rang 6 times before going to voicemail. I called Amanda. Craig. Neither answered. I sent frantic texts. Someone's threatening the kids. Call me immediately. No response. I drove to Beth's house. It was 3 in the morning. The lights were off. I pounded on the door until Beth's husband answered, angry and sleepy. Leslie, what the hell? Someone sent me a picture of the kids' room. They're being threatened. You need to leave. Now. Before I call the cops. I'm serious. There are dangerous people. Beth! He yelled up the stairs. Your mother's here. She's having another episode. Beth came down in her bathrobe. She looked at me like I was crazy. Mom, go home. Listen to me. Your father was involved in things you don't understand. The money you inherited isn't safe. There are people who want it back. This is exactly what we're talking about, Beth said. Paranoid delusions. Breaking into our house at 3 in the morning. You need help. I'm trying to help you. Go home, Mother. They shut the door. I heard the lock click. I sat in my car outside their house until sunrise, watching, making sure no one approached. No one did. The next 4 days passed in a blur of anxiety and isolation. None of my children would answer my calls. I hired a public defender, a young woman fresh out of law school named Jennifer, who seemed sympathetic but overwhelmed. They've built a strong case, Jennifer told me the day before the hearing. Forged or not, they have documentation. We need evidence to counter it. I have evidence. Audio recordings of them planning their father's murder. Jennifer's eyes widened. You have that? On a USB drive. Hidden safety. We can use that. But Leslie, if we present evidence of a crime, this becomes a criminal investigation. Your children could go to prison. I thought about Emma and Noah. About the life they'd have if their mother went to jail. Can we just use it to defend against the guardianship without pressing charges? Maybe. But if the judge hears evidence of murder, she might be obligated to report it. I spent that night staring at the ceiling, wrestling with impossible choices. Protect myself or protect my children. even after everything they'd done. The hearing took place in Cumberland County Courthouse. Jennifer and I sat at one table. My children, Gregory Stone, and another man I didn't recognize, sat at the other. The judge, a woman in her 50s named Judge Harriet Simmons, reviewed the paperwork with a stern expression. "This is a petition for emergency guardianship," she said. "Mr. Stone, present your case." Stone stood. He was polished, professional, devastating. He presented the forged letter from Harold. He called Dr. Raymond Mills to testify. Mills was thin, balding, with glasses and a soothing voice. He explained that he'd evaluated me and found clear signs of cognitive decline: confusion, memory loss, paranoid thinking. "I've never met this man," I whispered to Jennifer. She cross-examined him, but he was smooth, credible. He had notes from our supposed session, details that seemed specific and real. Then Stone called a neighbor, Gerald Peterson, who lived 2 houses down. Gerald testified that he'd seen me wandering in my yard late at night talking to myself, that I'd accused him of spying on me, that I'd seemed disoriented. All lies, but believable lies. Stone presented bank statements showing I'd written large checks to charities with names like Veterans Support Fund and Wildlife Rescue Alliance. He painted them as suspicious, possible scams targeting confused elderly people. Those were legitimate charities Harold had supported for years, but Stone made it sound like I was being taken advantage of. Jennifer tried. She called Dr. Walsh to testify that Harold had never expressed concerns about my mental state, but Stone countered that Harold might not have wanted to worry the doctor. That denial was common in families dealing with dementia. The hearing lasted 3 hours. At the end, Judge Simmons removed her glasses and looked directly at me. "Mrs. Leslie, do you understand why your children are concerned?" "Yes, Your Honor. But I'm not suffering from dementia. I'm completely competent. This is about money and control. That may be your perception, but based on the evidence presented, I'm granting temporary guardianship to your 3 children jointly for a period of 60 days. During that time, they will have authority over your financial decisions and living arrangements. You'll be given a weekly allowance of $200. There will be a review hearing in 60 days. If you can demonstrate competence at that time, the guardianship may be dissolved." The gavel came down. I sat frozen. Jennifer put a hand on my shoulder. "We'll appeal. Don't give up." But I could see it in her eyes. She didn't think we'd win. That afternoon, Craig and Beth showed up at the house with a moving truck. They had the court order in hand. "We're removing valuable items for safekeeping," Craig said. He wouldn't look at me. They took Harold's collection of vintage watches, the silverware my grandmother had left me, artwork from the walls, family photos in expensive frames. They moved through the house like burglars, loading boxes into the truck. I stood helplessly watching. Legally, I couldn't stop them. Craig paused on his way out with a box of Harold's books. For a moment, something like guilt crossed his face. "Don't worry, Mother. We're protecting these assets. For your own good." Then they changed the locks. Gave me one key. Installed new security cameras that they controlled. My own home had become a prison. That evening, Catherine called. "I heard about the hearing. Leslie, I'm so sorry. They've taken everything." "Not everything. You still have the safe. You still have the truth." "What good is the truth if I can't use it?" "You can. But you have to be strategic. Wait for the right moment." "I don't know if I have that kind of time. Those men who texted me, they're still out there." "I know. Actually, that's why I'm calling. Leslie, I need to disappear for a while. Things are getting dangerous. I've said too much to too many people. Harold kept records of everything. If those fall into the wrong hands..." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm leaving. Tonight. I'm sorry. But I can't help you anymore. Protect yourself. Trust your instincts. And whatever you do, don't tell your children about the offshore accounts." She hung up. I tried calling back. The number was disconnected. Over the next few days, I tried to reach Catherine at her office. The building manager said she hadn't been seen in 4 days. Her office had been cleared out overnight. I filed a missing persons report, but the police seemed unconcerned. Adults had the right to disappear if they wanted. I was completely alone. 48 days had passed since Harold's death. 42 days until the 90-day trap sprung on my children. I could see the progression on social media, which I checked obsessively from a computer at the public library. Amanda had posted photos of a massive house in Falmouth. New beginnings, the caption read. The realtor listing showed a purchase price of $3.2 million, cash. Craig's Instagram was full of yacht pictures. He'd quit his job at the insurance company. His posts showed parties, champagne, beautiful people. Beth had bought a vacation home in Aspen. Her Facebook posts gushed about mountain views and ski season. They were burning through the $15 million at a terrifying rate, and they had no idea what was coming. I tried one more time to warn them. I drove to the marina, where Craig kept his new yacht. Security stopped me at the gate. I'm Craig's mother. I need to see him. The guard checked his computer. Sorry, ma'am. You're on the banned list. Banned? By who? Mr. Craig. He left instructions you're not to be allowed on the property. I watched from the parking lot as Craig and a group of friends boarded the yacht. Music blared. They sailed out into Casco Bay, oblivious, while I sat helpless in my car. That night, I received another text. Same unknown number. This time, a photo of Craig on his yacht. Crosshairs drawn over his face. No words, just the image. They were watching my children, waiting. The next morning, I tried Amanda. I went to her new house in Falmouth, walked up to the door and rang the bell. She answered in yoga clothes, annoyed. Mom, you can't just show up here. Amanda, please listen. The money isn't safe. Your father was involved in. She cut me off. Stop. Just stop. This paranoid conspiracy nonsense is exactly why you need supervision. I'm trying to save you. Save me? She laughed, harsh and bitter. From what? Financial security? Freedom? You're just jealous that Dad left us the money and gave you nothing. That's not true. Isn't it? You spent 40 years taking care of him, playing the perfect wife, and he threw you away. That must hurt, but taking it out on us won't change anything. She started to close the door. I put my foot in the way. Your father knew you were planning to kill him. Amanda went pale. What did you say? He recorded you. All of you. Discussing how to give him a heart attack. Digitalis. Making it look natural. For a moment, fear flickered across her face. Then it hardened into rage. You're insane. That never happened. I have the recordings. No, you have delusions, and I'm documenting this. She pulled out her phone and started recording video. Here's my mother, making wild accusations, showing signs of severe mental instability. This is why the court granted guardianship. Amanda, please. She shoved me backward. I stumbled off the porch. Get off my property, now. I drove back to Portland, defeated. That evening, I pulled out the USB drives and listened to the recordings again. My children's voices, casual and cruel, discussing their father's death like a business transaction. But what Catherine had said echoed in my mind. Let them spend it. When the 90 days are up, they'll be in debt to some very scary people. Was that what Harold wanted? For them to suffer? Or had he hoped I'd save them? I honestly didn't know. 52 days since his death. 38 days until the trap sprung. Then everything changed. I saw it on the evening news. Attorney Gregory Stone found dead in his office from apparent suicide. Police say Stone, 47, left a note and appeared to have been under significant stress. But I looked closely at the footage of the office building. I recognized it, 10th floor. The same building where Marcus Brennan had offices according to Harold's client list. This wasn't suicide. The dangerous men were moving. Cleaning up loose ends, Stone must have known something, or had access to information they wanted. The body count had started. And my children, spending money that belonged to murderers, had no idea they were next. That night, I went back to the safe. I'd searched it thoroughly before, but something Harold had written kept nagging at me. The final key is in my watch. His watch. The Rolex I'd given him for our 20th anniversary. He'd been buried wearing it. We'd agreed he should have it with him forever. I sat on the basement floor, holding Harold's second letter, reading that line over and over. The final key is in my watch. There was only one way to get it. I called Harold's sister Diane in Boston. We'd always been close. Diane had never liked our children, thought they were spoiled and entitled. Diane, I need help with something impossible. Name it. I told her about the guardianship, about Harold's hidden messages, about the watch. You want to exhume him. It wasn't a question. I know how it sounds. It sounds like Harold planned this. He always was 10 steps ahead of everyone. She paused. I'll help. We'll petition the court, religious concerns. I'll say Jewish burial customs require. Harold wasn't Jewish. The court doesn't know that. Leave it to me. 3 days later, the petition was approved. I couldn't believe it, but Diane could be incredibly persuasive when she wanted to be. The exhumation was scheduled for the next morning, 61 days since Harold's death. I barely slept. When I told my children what was happening, their reaction was volcanic. All 3 appeared at my house that evening. They didn't bother knocking, just used their keys and stormed in. You're digging up, Dad? Craig's face was purple with rage. I need his watch. You're insane, Beth screamed. Certifiably insane. There's something in it. Something your father wanted me to have. Amanda moved close to me, her voice low and dangerous. You're doing this to hurt us, to ruin Dad's memory, to get attention. I'm doing this because your father left me instructions. You mean your delusions told you to? Amanda raised her hand and slapped me across the face. I stumbled backward. Craig grabbed my arm, hard enough to bruise, and shoved me against the wall. My head cracked against the plaster. Stop this, he hissed in my face. Call off the exhumation or we'll have you committed. Not guardianship. Full psychiatric hold. Beth held up her phone. I'm recording this whole thing. Look how aggressive you're being, how unstable. But her phone was pointed at me, not at Craig's hands on my throat, not at the red mark on my face where Amanda had struck me. They left me crumpled on the floor, crying. The next morning, Diane picked me up at 6. We drove to Evergreen Cemetery in silence. The funeral director met us there with a small crew. Harold's plot was in the older section, near a stand of pine trees. My children hadn't come, refused to attend. The casket was raised from the ground, sealed and somber. The funeral director opened it carefully. Harold's body had been embalmed well, preserved. He looked like he was sleeping, sunken and still, but recognizable. I reached in with shaking hands and removed the Rolex from his wrist bone. The metal was cold. I held it against my chest and whispered, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Back in Diane's car, I examined the watch closely. It looked normal, classic gold Rolex. But Harold had showed me something once, years ago, a trick he'd had the jeweler install. I pressed the crown and twisted it counterclockwise 3 times, then pulled. The back popped open. Inside the hollow case, tucked into a custom-made compartment, was a micro SD card the size of my thumbnail, and another key, even smaller than the first, with numbers engraved on it, 1847. What's that? Diane asked. I don't know, but I'm going to find out. I had Diane drop me at a computer repair shop on Forest Avenue. The tech, a young man with multiple piercings, transferred the SD card contents to a tablet for me. Just one file, he said. Video. Want me to play it? Yes. Harold's face appeared on screen. He was sitting in his office, late at night, judging by the darkness outside the window. The timestamp showed 2 weeks before he died. Leslie, if you're watching this, I'm gone. And you've figured out the puzzle I left. He looked tired, older than I remembered. I need to tell you what happened, what our children did. He held up a small plastic bag, pills inside. I found these in Amanda's purse 3 months ago when she visited. I was looking for a pen and found them hidden in an inside pocket. Digitalis. Cardiac medication. But Amanda doesn't have a heart condition. Harold's voice cracked. I didn't understand at first. Then I found the crushed residue in my coffee cups, traces on the rim of glasses they'd brought me water in. I had my coffee tested at a private lab. Positive for digitalis. They were poisoning me, Leslie. Our children were giving me small doses, building up in my system, waiting for my heart to give out. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. I heard them talking, Harold continued. I installed recording equipment in my office. They didn't know. I have hours of them discussing it, discussing how much longer I'd take to die, how they could spend the inheritance. He set down the bag of pills. I could have gone to the police, but they're my children, our children. I couldn't do it. Instead, I chose this. I'm going to let them succeed. I'm going to let myself die. But I'm setting a trap they'll never escape. Harold? No, I whispered to the screen. The $15 million is real money, but it's structured as a loan against estate assets. If they spend it within 90 days, they'll owe penalties and taxes they can't pay. $12 million in debt. They'll be financially ruined. It's not enough punishment for murder, but it's what I can do without destroying our grandchildren's lives. He leaned closer to the camera. But Leslie, there's more. I need you to know everything. The money isn't mine. It belongs to some very dangerous people. Men I've been helping move money offshore for years. Illegal money. When I die, access to their accounts freezes. They'll come looking for it. They'll threaten you. Threaten the kids. He pulled out a document. This is proof of everything. The offshore accounts, the client names, the illegal transactions. I'm giving this to you as protection. If those men come after you, you can threaten to expose them. Mutually assured destruction. Harold's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry I'm leaving this mess for you to clean up. I'm sorry I wasn't stronger. I should have seen what our children were becoming. I should have stopped it years ago, but I kept giving them chances, kept hoping they'd change. He wiped his eyes. The small key you found opens safety deposit box 1847 at Portland Trust Bank. Inside is $52 million in bearer bonds. Clean money, legal. Money I saved and invested over decades. It's yours. All yours. Not the kids. Use it to protect yourself. Use it to live the life you deserve. He smiled sadly. You're stronger than you know, Leslie. Stronger than me. You'll figure out what to do, whether to save our children or let them suffer the consequences of what they've done. I trust your judgment. I always have. The video ended. I sat in the repair shop, staring at the blank screen, tears streaming down my face. Harold had known. He'd known, and he'd let them kill him. He'd turned his own murder into elaborate revenge plot, and he'd left the final decision to me. The tech cleared his throat awkwardly. You okay, ma'am? I wasn't, but I nodded anyway. I took a cab to Portland Trust Bank. The safety deposit box key fit perfectly. Inside was exactly what Harold had promised. Bearer bonds, $52 million. Completely legal, completely mine. And a flash drive labeled, "Send this to FBI on day 90. I held the flash drive in my hand. This was it. The evidence of murder. The proof that would send my children to prison for the rest of their lives. 75 days had passed since Harold's death. 15 days until the 90-day trap sprung on their finances. 15 days until Harold wanted me to send this evidence to the FBI. 15 days to decide what kind of person I would be. I converted $2 million in bearer bonds to cash through Diane's financial advisor. It took 3 days and multiple banks, but I ended up with enough money to hire the best attorney in Maine. Judith Harper's office overlooked the harbor. She was 60, gray-haired, sharp as a blade. She'd represented governors and senators. She didn't take small cases. But she took mine. You're telling me your children murdered your husband, and you have video proof. She'd watched Harold's recording twice. Yes. And they've obtained fraudulent guardianship over you through perjury. Yes. And the $15 million they inherited is actually structured to destroy them financially in. She checked her calendar. 12 days. Yes. Judith leaned back in her leather chair. This is the most elaborate revenge plot I've ever seen. Your husband was either a genius or a monster. Maybe both. The question is, what do you want? I'd been asking myself that for days. I want the guardianship dissolved. I want my life back, and I want my children to face consequences. But I don't want my grandchildren to grow up without parents. Those are conflicting goals. I know. Judith pulled out a legal pad. Here's what we can do. We file to dissolve the guardianship based on fraud. We present evidence that the psychiatric evaluation was fake, the dementia claims were lies. We don't mention the murder yet. We just get you free. And then? Then we wait. When the 90-day clause hits and your children's finances collapse, they'll be desperate. That's when we negotiate. Negotiate what? Their freedom for their behavior. They make restitution to you. They enter therapy. They follow whatever conditions you set. If they refuse, you go to the FBI with the murder evidence. It felt calculated and cold, but Harold had been calculated and cold. Maybe that was the language my children understood. Do it. Over the next week, Judith worked miracles. She filed emergency motions. She deposed Dr. Raymond Mills, who cracked under questioning and admitted he'd never actually examined me. Gregory Stone's death had left a paper trail showing he'd fabricated documents. The forged letter from Harold was analyzed and proved fake. On day 84, we had an emergency hearing. Judge Simmons reviewed the new evidence with a grim expression. "This court was deceived," she said. "Dr. Mills, you're facing perjury charges, Mr. Stone's actions, while he can't be prosecuted due to his death, brought shame to the legal profession." She looked at my children, who sat pale and silent at their table with a new lawyer. "The guardianship is dissolved immediately. Mrs. Leslie, you have full control of your affairs. Your children are ordered to return any property they removed from your home within 7 days." Amanda started crying, not sad tears, angry tears. Outside the courthouse, Judith stopped me. "They're going to come after you now. Be ready." She was right. That evening, my phone started ringing, Craig first. "Mom, please, we need to talk." I didn't answer. Then Amanda, Beth. Texts, voicemails, emails, all with the same desperate tone. They needed help. Something was wrong with the money. Could I please call them back? Day 87 arrived. All 3 of them showed up at my house. But this time, they weren't angry or aggressive. They looked broken. Amanda's hair was unwashed. Craig had lost weight, looked hollow. Beth couldn't stop her hands from shaking. I let them in. We sat in the living room where they'd stood months ago, laughing at me. The roles had reversed. "Mom," Amanda started. Then her voice broke. "We're in trouble." "I know. The money. Dad's money. It's not what we thought." "I know." Craig leaned forward. "There are penalties, taxes. We owe $12 million. We have $4 million left. We can't pay it." "I know." Beth was crying. "And these men, these scary men, they keep calling. They say the money wasn't Dad's. They want it back. They're threatening us." "I know." They stared at me. "You knew?" Amanda whispered. "You knew and you didn't warn us?" "I tried. Multiple times. You called me crazy. You blocked my calls. You banned me from your lives." Silence filled the room. "Mom, please." Craig's voice was small, childlike. "You must have some of Dad's money. He wouldn't have left you with nothing. Please, help us." This was the moment. The moment Harold had engineered. The moment of choice. I stood up and walked to my computer. I turned the screen toward them and pressed play. Harold's face appeared. They watched themselves crushing pills, discussing their father's death, waiting for him to die so they could inherit. The audio was clear. The video was damning. When it ended, the room was silent, except for Beth vomiting in the corner trash can. Amanda's face had gone completely white. Oh God. Oh God. Craig was hyperventilating. He knew. Dad knew. He knew everything. I said quietly. "He set all of this up. The will, the money, the 90-day trap. He wanted you to destroy yourselves, and you did exactly what he predicted." "We didn't mean to kill him," Amanda said. "We just wanted him to get sick. To write the will sooner, we didn't think." "You didn't think it would work?" My voice was cold. "You poisoned your father, and you didn't think it would kill him?" "We're sorry." Craig looked at me with tears streaming down his face. "Mom, we're so sorry. We were greedy and stupid and evil. We deserve everything that's happening to us." Beth crawled to my feet. "Do what you have to do. Call the police. We don't deserve mercy." I looked at my 3 children, the babies I'd raised, the toddlers I'd read to, the teenagers I'd worried over. Now they were murderers, broken and desperate. "Your father wanted me to send this to the FBI on day 90. He wanted you destroyed completely." Amanda sobbed. Craig put his face in his hands. Beth just knelt there, waiting for judgment. "But I'm not your father. I'm your mother. And I'm going to do something he wouldn't." They looked up at me. "I'm going to give you a choice. You can face the consequences of what you've done through the legal system. Prison. Trials. Your children growing up with parents behind bars. Or you can face consequences through me." "What do you mean?" Craig asked. I won't send the evidence to the FBI, but you will meet my conditions, all of them, for the rest of your lives. If you break even one, I turn over everything to the authorities and you go to prison. Do you understand? They nodded frantically. Here are my terms. I'd spent days writing them. I pulled out the document and read it aloud. 1. You will each enter intensive therapy, twice a week minimum, for at least 2 years. You will address your greed, your entitlement, your capacity for cruelty. You will become better people or you will go to prison. 2. You will get jobs, real jobs. You will earn your own money. No more handouts, no more easy wealth. You will learn the value of work. 3. You will see me every Sunday for dinner. Every single Sunday. You will be part of my life. You will act like the children I raised you to be. 4. When your children are old enough, you will tell them what you did. You will explain your crime. You will teach them never to make your mistakes. 5. You will volunteer at hospice care facilities. 1 full day per month. You will sit with dying patients. You will see the value of life you tried to steal from your father. 6. You will write letters to your father's grave every month, confessing what you did, asking forgiveness. 7. You will pay back every penny you took from me, the house sale you attempted, the property you removed, all of it. It may take years. I don't care. You will repay it. 8. You will apologize publicly for the guardianship fraud. You will admit what you did. You will face the shame you've earned. I set down the paper. These are my terms. Accept them, or I call the FBI right now. We accept, Amanda said immediately. We accept, Craig echoed. Whatever you want, Beth whispered. Anything. Just please don't send us to prison. Please don't take us away from our kids. I picked up the phone. They froze. Then I called Judith Harper. Judith, draw up the agreement. All the terms we discussed, they've accepted. After they left, I sat in the empty house and cried. For Harold. For myself. For the children I'd once had who'd become monsters. For the long road of redemption ahead. Day 90 arrived. I'd already contacted Marcus Brennan through Judith. Returned the $15 million from Harold's accounts that I now controlled. Brennan had agreed to leave my family alone. The dangerous men retreated into shadows. My children were saved from physical danger, but they'd never be safe from themselves again. 6 months passed. I moved to a small cottage on the coast in Cape Elizabeth. 2 bedrooms, a view of the Atlantic, peace and quiet. I'd spent 40 years in that house in Portland with Harold. I couldn't stay there anymore. Too many ghosts. I established the Harold Brennan Foundation for Elder Abuse Prevention. Ironic name, given what Harold had done. But the work was real. We helped seniors recognize financial exploitation, provided legal aid for guardianship abuse cases, funded research into family dynamics and inheritance disputes. I donated $10 million to the foundation, another $1 million to various charities Harold had supported. That left me $41 million, more money than I could ever spend. Every Sunday, my children came to dinner. At first, it was awkward, painful. We sat around my new dining table in silence, pushing food around our plates. What do you say to your children after they've murdered their father? After they've tried to destroy you? But slowly, week by week, we found words. Amanda got a job teaching 3rd grade at a public school in South Portland. She'd had a teaching degree she'd never used, from back before Harold's money made work optional. She was good at it. Her students loved her. She came to Sunday dinner and talked about lesson plans, about struggling readers, about small victories. She was becoming the person I'd hoped she'd be 20 years ago. Craig took a job in construction. He showed up to dinner with calloused hands, sunburned face, wearing exhaustion like a badge. I'm sore everywhere, he said one Sunday, but I built something today. An actual wall. I can drive by that house in 10 years and know I put my hands on it. There was pride in his voice I'd never heard before. Beth became a bookkeeper for a small nonprofit. She was meticulous with numbers, always had been. She processed donations, tracked expenses, made sure every dollar was accounted for. It feels good, she told me quietly one evening. Helping an organization do good things, instead of just spending money on myself. They were in therapy. Dr. Sarah Chen for Amanda, Dr. Marcus Williams for Craig, Dr. Jennifer Abbott for Beth. Different therapists, all skilled in trauma and family dynamics. I didn't ask what they discussed in their sessions. That was between them and their healing. They volunteered at Mercy Hospital's hospice wing. I went with them once, in month 4. Watched Amanda sit with a dying woman named Dorothy, holding her hand while Dorothy's breathing grew shallow. Watched Craig read to a man named Frank, who had no family, whose eyes lit up at the sound of another human voice. Watched Beth brush the hair of a woman named Patricia, making her beautiful for the end. They were learning what they'd tried to steal: the sanctity of life, the grace of a peaceful death, the value of time. They wrote letters to Harold's grave. I found them sometimes tucked under rocks at his headstone, rain-smeared ink, words of regret and shame and desperate apologies. I never read them completely. They weren't for me. The grandchildren came to Sunday dinners too. Emma and Noah, Beth's kids, Tyler and Sophie, Amanda's twins, Jackson, Craig's son. They ran through my cottage, filled it with noise and life. They didn't know yet what their parents had done. They thought Grandpa had died naturally, that Grandma had moved because she wanted ocean views. One day, when they were older, they'd learn the truth. It would break something in them, but hopefully, by then, their parents would be people worth forgiving. My children were paying back the money they owed me. Small amounts. $50 here, $100 there. At the rate they were going, it would take 30 years. I didn't care. It wasn't about the money. It was about them understanding debt, obligation, consequence. They'd apologized publicly for the guardianship fraud. Brief statements to the local paper. We made serious errors in judgment regarding our mother's competence. We apologized to her and to the court for our actions. It was humiliating for them. That was the point. On a Sunday in late October, we sat around the dinner table. The sunset painted the ocean orange and gold outside my windows. The kids were in the living room watching a movie. "Mom," Amanda said carefully, "I need to tell you something." I set down my fork. "Emma asked me today why we have to visit you every Sunday. She said her friend Katie only sees her grandmother on holidays." Amanda looked at her plate. "I told her it's because I love you, that I want to spend time with you. That family is important." "And?" I asked, and I realized I was telling the truth. "I do want to be here. Not because I have to, because I want to." Her eyes filled with tears. When did that happen? When did I stop hating these dinners and start looking forward to them? Craig cleared his throat. "Me too. I mean, I'm still ashamed. Every time I look at you, I remember what we did. But I'm grateful you're here, that you're giving us this chance." Beth nodded. "You could have destroyed us. You had every right. But you chose differently. Why?" I looked at my 3 children. They weren't the people who'd laughed at me in that lawyer's office. They weren't the people who'd poisoned their father. They were works in progress. Broken things slowly being repaired. "Because you're my children," I said simply. "And I believe people can change. Not easily, not quickly. But if they do the work, if they face what they've done, change is possible." "Do you forgive us?" Amanda whispered. I thought about it. Really thought about it. I don't know yet. Forgiveness isn't a switch I can flip. It's a process, but I'm working on it. Just like you're working on being better people. We sat in silence for a moment. "Tell me about your week," I said to Craig. "You were working on that school renovation." And just like that, we moved forward. Not forgetting, never forgetting, but living in the present moment instead of drowning in the past. After they left that evening, I stood on my deck watching the waves crash against the rocks below. I thought about Harold's elaborate revenge plot, the 90-day trap, the hidden money, the video evidence. He'd wanted me to destroy our children, to send them to prison, to punish them absolutely. But I'd chosen a different path, not because they deserved mercy, they didn't, but because I deserved peace, and there was no peace in revenge, only the hollow satisfaction of making others suffer. Harold had turned his death into a weapon. I'd turned it into a lesson. I kept the flash drive locked in a safe deposit box at Portland Trust Bank, insurance against backsliding, a reminder that consequences still waited if they failed. But I didn't think about it much anymore. I thought instead about Sunday dinners, about Tyler's gap-toothed smile, about Amanda's stories from her classroom, about Craig's calloused hands that had built real things, about Beth's meticulous spreadsheets that helped people. I thought about the foundation that was helping other families avoid our fate, about the seniors we'd protected from exploitation, about the good that had somehow grown from terrible soil. One evening in December, I received a letter. No return address. Inside, a single sheet of paper with 2 words written in Catherine's handwriting. You chose well. So she was alive. Somewhere. She'd been watching from a distance, seeing how I'd handled Harold's final test. I burned the letter in my fireplace and watched the paper curl and blacken. Some stories needed to end. Some secrets needed to stay buried. Christmas came. My children and grandchildren filled my cottage. We cooked together, laughed together, built gingerbread houses that collapsed spectacularly. Emma sat on my lap and asked me to read her favorite book. Noah showed me the drawing he'd made at school. The normalcy was surreal. After everyone left and the house was quiet again, I sat by the fireplace with a glass of wine. I raised it toward the ceiling. You were wrong, Harold, I said to his ghost. You wanted revenge. You got redemption instead. I hope wherever you are you can see the difference. The fire crackled. The ocean whispered outside. I felt for the first time since Harold's death, something like peace. Spring arrived. 1 year since Harold's death, we held a small memorial service at his grave. Just family. My children brought flowers. The grandchildren drew pictures that we left beside his headstone. Amanda knelt by the grave and whispered something I couldn't hear. When she stood up, her face was wet with tears, but also something else. Relief, maybe. Or release. Thank you for this, she said to me as we walked back to the cars. For letting us be here. For not cutting us out of your life completely. You're still my children, I said. That doesn't change. Even after what we did? Even then. She hugged me, long and tight. I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to deserve that. That evening, alone in my cottage, I made a decision. I drove to Portland Trust Bank the next morning, asked for access to my safe deposit box, took out the flash drive with all the evidence of murder, the video of Harold explaining everything, the audio recordings of my children plotting. I also retrieved a small hammer I'd brought with me. In the bank's private viewing room, I set the flash drive on the table. This tiny piece of plastic held the power to destroy my children's lives, to take them away from their kids, to put them in prison for decades. Harold had wanted me to use it as a sword hanging over their heads forever. Control through fear. But I'd learned something this past year. Fear doesn't heal. It doesn't transform. It just festers and grows. My children were changing. Genuinely changing. Not because I threatened them with prison, but because they'd seen what they'd become and chose something different. The therapy helped. The volunteer work helped. The honest labor helped. But mostly, it was their choice. Every day, they chose to be better. I raised the hammer and brought it down on the flash drive. Once, twice, 3 times, until it was nothing but plastic shards and silicon dust. The evidence was gone. The final threat was gone. My children were free. Not free from consequences. They still owed me money. They still came to Sunday dinners. They still did their volunteer work and wrote their letters. But they were free from the terror that I might destroy them at any moment. I swept the shards into a trash can and left the bank. That Sunday at dinner, I told them what I'd done. They stared at me in shock. You destroyed it? Craig said. All the evidence? All of it. But why? Beth asked. That was your insurance. Your power over us. I don't want power over you. I want to see if you can be good people without a threat hanging over your heads. I want to know if your changes are real. Amanda's face crumpled. What if we fail? What if we slip back? Then you fail. And you deal with the consequences of who you choose to be. But it will be your choice, not fear of me. I don't understand, Craig said. You could have controlled us forever. I don't want to control you. I want you to control yourselves. We sat in silence while they processed it. You really believe we can be better? Amanda asked. I've seen you be better. Every Sunday, every therapy session you attend, every hour you volunteer, every honest day's work. You're already better than you were. We killed our father, Beth said quietly. How do we ever get past that? You don't get past it. You carry it. You let it shape you into people who honor life instead of destroying it. You teach your children differently than you were taught. You break the cycle. That night, after they left, I sat on my deck and realized something. I'd spent 40 years with Harold, loving him, building a life with him, but he'd kept secrets. He'd made choices without me. He'd set up this elaborate revenge without asking what I wanted. He'd loved me, I think, but he'd also controlled me. Even from the grave, he'd tried to dictate my choices. By destroying the evidence, I'd finally freed myself from his plan. I was my own person now, making my own choices, living my own life. 2 years passed. Amanda won Teacher of the Year at her school. She came to Sunday dinner glowing with pride, showing me the plaque. My principal said I have a gift for reaching difficult students, kids who've been hurt, kids who've made mistakes. She smiled sadly. I guess I understand them. Craig started his own small construction company, just him and 2 employees. They specialized in renovations for elderly homeowners, keeping costs low, doing good work. I'm not getting rich, he told me, but I'm helping people. That's worth more than I thought it would be. Beth's nonprofit expanded. She became the financial director. She implemented new systems that helped them serve twice as many families. Numbers were always easy for me, she said. But using them to help people, instead of just making money, that's different. That's meaningful. Their children grew. Emma started 3rd grade in Amanda's classroom. Noah learned to read. Tyler joined Little League. Sophie took ballet. Jackson started kindergarten. They were normal kids, happy kids. They didn't carry the weight of their parents' crimes. Not yet. One Sunday, Emma asked me, "Grandma, what was Grandpa like?" Everyone at the table froze. I thought carefully. Your grandfather was a complicated man. He was smart. He loved puzzles and problems. He worked hard. He loved all of you very much. Do I look like him? She asked. You have his eyes. And his stubborn streak. I smiled. When you were a baby, he used to hold you for hours. He said you were perfect. It was true. All of it was true. Harold had been those things. He'd also been vengeful and controlling. He'd created an elaborate trap for his own children. He'd let himself die to teach them a lesson. But Emma didn't need to know that yet. She needed to know her grandfather had loved her. That was enough for now. 3 years after Harold's death, Amanda called me on a Wednesday. Unusual. We mostly talked on Sundays. Mom, can you meet me? Just you and me? We met at a coffee shop in Cape Elizabeth. She looked nervous. I need to tell you something, she said. I'm pregnant. My first thought was joy. My second was fear. How do you feel about it? I asked. Terrified, she admitted. What if I'm a terrible mother? What if I mess up this child the way Dad messed us up? You're already a better parent than you think. I've watched you with your students, with Tyler and Sophie. You're patient and kind. But what if the bad parts come out? The greed, the selfishness. What if those are genetic? I took her hands. They're not genetic. They're learned. And you've unlearned them. You've done the work. You've changed. Have I? Really? Or am I just scared of going to prison? This was the question I'd been waiting for. The real test of whether destroying the evidence had been the right choice. Amanda, there's something I need to tell you. 2 years ago, I destroyed the flash drive. All the evidence of what you did. There's no record anymore. No proof, just your memories and mine. She stared at me. You never told us. I wanted to see if you'd keep being better without that threat. And you have. All 3 of you. Tears streamed down her face. So, we're really free? You were always free. You just didn't know it. She sobbed. Not sad tears. Relief. Years of fear and shame pouring out. When she'd cried herself out, she looked at me with red eyes. Why did you give us that chance? Because I'm your mother. And mothers believe in second chances, even when they're not deserved. I don't deserve you. Maybe not. But you're getting me anyway. She laughed through her tears. I'm going to be a good mom. To this baby. I'm going to break the cycle. I know you will. 5 years after Harold's death, we gathered at my cottage for Thanksgiving. All 3 children, all 6 grandchildren, and Amanda's new baby, a girl named Rose. The cottage was chaos. Kids running everywhere. Multiple conversations happening at once. Food burning slightly in the oven. Toys scattered across the floor. It was perfect. I held Rose while Amanda finished cooking. The baby stared up at me with dark eyes. Harold's eyes. "Your great-grandfather would have loved you," I whispered to her. "He would have held you just like this. He made terrible mistakes. We all do. But he loved his family. That part was real." Amanda appeared in the doorway watching us. "Do you think he'd be proud of who we've become?" I thought about it. Harold, who'd set that elaborate trap, who'd wanted them punished, who'd chosen revenge over redemption. "I don't know," I said honestly. "But I'm proud. And that's what matters." After dinner, after the kids were watching a movie and the adults were cleaning up, Craig pulled me aside. "Mom, we've been talking. The three of us. We want to do something." "What?" "Set up a scholarship fund, in Dad's name, for kids who've made serious mistakes, kids in juvenile detention, kids in the system. Give them a second chance at education." "That's beautiful." "We're not rich," Beth added, coming over with a dish towel, "but we've been saving. And we thought, maybe this is how we honor what Dad taught us, by helping other people not make our mistakes. Or by helping them find their way back if they do," Amanda said. I looked at my 3 children. 5 years ago, they'd been murderers, cruel and greedy and broken. Now they were parents, teachers, volunteers, people who wanted to help troubled kids. The transformation wasn't complete. They still carried shame. They still struggled, but they were genuinely different people. "Your father would have loved that idea," I said. "Let's do it." That night, after everyone had left and the cottage was quiet again, I sat by the window watching the ocean. The moon painted a silver path across the water. I thought about choices. The choice Harold made to set a trap instead of confronting his children. The choice my children made to poison their father. The choice I made to offer redemption instead of revenge. Every choice had consequences. Some led to death and destruction. Some led to growth and healing. I'd chosen to believe in the possibility of change. Not because my children deserved it, not because it was easy or comfortable, but because the alternative was to live in bitterness and rage forever. Forgiveness wasn't about excusing what they'd done. It was about refusing to let their crime define the rest of all our lives. I got the letter. They got $15 million. But in the end, I got something worth far more. I got to decide what kind of person I would be when I held all the power, when I had every right to be merciless, when the world would have supported my revenge. And I chose mercy. Not easy mercy, not cheap forgiveness, but the hard, daily work of rebuilding relationship with people who'd hurt me, of holding them accountable while still holding them close, of demanding change while believing change was possible. That choice, more than any amount of money, more than any revenge plot, set me free. Harold's trap had been clever, but it was still a trap, still about control and punishment. I'd chosen something different, something harder, something that required me to be vulnerable and strong at the same time. I'd chosen love, not the simple love of happier times, but the complicated love that sees clearly and chooses relationship anyway. The love that says you did terrible things and I'm not pretending you didn't, but I'm still here. That was my inheritance, not money, not revenge, but the freedom to choose who I would become when tested by unthinkable betrayal. And I chose to be someone who believed in redemption. The ocean whispered against the rocks. The moon continued its journey across the sky. In the morning, there would be Sunday dinner to plan, grandchildren to hug, my children's continued growth to support. But right now, in this moment, I felt at peace. Harold had left me a key to a safe. Inside that safe was money and evidence and the power to destroy. But the real gift was the choice itself, the agency, the freedom to decide. And I'd chosen well. I raised my glass of wine toward the stars. To second chances, I said to the night, to the hard work of becoming better, to the power of choosing mercy over revenge. The waves answered with their eternal rhythm, forward and back, destruction and renewal, the same dance they'd been doing since the beginning of time. We all make mistakes, some small, some catastrophic. The question isn't whether we fail, it's what we do after. Whether we let our failures define us or transform us. My children had chosen transformation. and I'd chosen to believe in it. That was enough. That was everything. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever been faced with a choice between revenge and redemption? Between making someone pay for what they did, or giving them a chance to become something better? It's not an easy choice. There's no right answer that works for everyone. But I learned that mercy isn't weakness. It's the hardest kind of strength. If this story touched your heart, I'd be grateful if you'd take a moment to like this video and subscribe to hear more stories about life's complicated choices. Share it with someone who might need to hear about the power of second chances. And leave a comment telling me, what would you have done in my situation? I'd love to know your thoughts. Thank you for listening to my story. May you find the courage to make the hard choices that lead to healing, not just for others, but for yourself. Peace be with you.